Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. My name is Holley Ulbrich, and I'm your worship associate today. My pronouns are she, her, and we. The land on which we meet is the ancestral home of the Southern Iroquois and the Eastern Cherokee, and we honor the land they cared for and the indigenous people who cared for it. If we have any visitors today, you are welcome. We invite you to stand if you want to introduce yourself. And if you're shy, you don't have to be a first time, you can be a second-time visitor, you can be somebody who was away for a long time. But anyway, if you want to stand and introduce yourselves, we'd like to make you welcome. And it doesn't look like there's any strangers in the room today. Okay. Wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, wherever you were born, whatever language you speak, you are welcome here. Whatever your skin color, whatever your class background, whatever your range of abilities, you are welcome here. We're glad that you chose our fellowship as your place of worship this morning. Whatever your beliefs, whatever your politics, whatever your theology, we come together for worship, to slow down and listen for the callings of our hearts and our spirits. We come together for worship so that we can be reminded of our highest aspirations and continue to transform ourselves into our best selves. If you're interested in reading our weekly newsletter so you can get connected with our community, our weekly sharing of joys and concerns, and our collective efforts to support local social justice work, please reach out to the office by mail or on our website, uufc.org. I have a few announcements for you this morning. Find them. First of all, we need your help for a new RE program on UU Lego sources and values. Not sources and values of Legos, but UU Lego as a means to address sources and values. So pair up with an RE leader in our children's program to build Lego things based on our UU heritage in a schedule that suits you. And our contact is Karen Hiebel. After the social hour, the social action team will hold its quarterly meeting to plan the year and our focus and try to create some themes for the various particular social justice concerns we hope to address during the year. On Monday, January 13th, the Socratic Cafe will be held at 10:15 a.m. in the social room, the new time and place. We will be discussing free will, led by Adam Geese, and our contact person is Alan Goldsmith. Wednesday, January 15th, a board meeting at 5 p.m. That's a new time at Founders House. Visitors are always welcome. Thursday, January 16th, there's a hula hike. Meet here at 10 a.m. to carpool to Yellow Branch Falls, and the contact person is Sarah Summers-Hoskin. We had a message from the Greenville congregation inviting us to participate. Let me find it in here. This is it. Okay, too many pieces of paper. We the People Greenville are having a rally for the people moving forward together Saturday, January 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Falls Park Stage in Greenville. And we are invited to join them in a commitment to freedom and dignity for all people in the United States and to forge a path forward that protects and advocates for the least among us. If you want to learn more about it, you can probably find more information on the Greenville UU website, otherwise known as GOOF. And finally, I want to remind you, it's the following week, but we are encouraging everyone who is interested in freedom to read, freedom to learn, to attend the meeting at the Clemson Central Library on Saturday, January 25th from 10:30 to 12 with Reba Cruz, the founder of Citizen Advocates for Education. And she'll update us on what's going on locally and statewide and help you identify ways in which you can participate in protecting our public schools, our public libraries, and our children's freedom to read.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Holley Brown. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the settled minister here at UUFC. I'm so glad to see so many of you this morning. I wasn't sure with the weather this last few days what the roads and timing for us to be together was going to look like today. But again, I'm so glad that you're here, and I offer these words as our call to worship this morning. Covenants are intentional. Covenants are audacious. Covenants are the promise that we can change our lives together in this faith. Together, we are stronger. Together, we will be wiser. Together, we will be gentler. We promise to recognize our uniqueness, to treasure our faith, to honor our neighbors with holiness. We covenant to be committed to each other, to consider each as significant, to consider each as valuable. We covenant to be invitational and accepting, to speak grace-filled truth, to forgive each other over and over. Again, and yes, to love. Our covenant stands firm. Our embodiment of faith in each other. It is a blessing of each other. It is a commitment to each other. May we hold this community as a precious gift. May we hold our relationships as gifts that transcend borders. May we carry forth the intention of our covenant, the audacity of our covenant, the promise of our covenant, now and in the years to come. May we enter into a time of worship together this morning, and in the spirit of this, you are invited to rise in body, mind, or spirit, wherever you are, to join in singing our opening hymn, number 349, We Gather Together.
Do we have a child? You have the child?
Not one call, but
Okay. Would you like to light the chalice?
well,
Or do you want me to light the
well,
chalice?
I was going to ask if one of our kids would like to volunteer to come up and light the chalice. Talia, would you like to come forward? Okay.
Okay.
I saw you peek out.
Okay. You can't hide back there. Okay. And while she lights the chalice, let us recite our words of affirmation that are in the order of service. We gather together in a spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
So our story this morning is a retelling of one of those ancient wisdom tales that get handed down through the generations. And this one comes to us from Tibet. And like many of these old stories, it has a lot to offer in it. This one, you could talk about compassion, you could talk about creative thinking, you could talk about leadership, you could talk about what it means to be truly in community and how a community can lift up every single member of that group. So this morning's story is The Jug on the Rock. And there's going to be a little bit of audience participation. So, a man carried his large clay jug full of freshly made yogurt milk. He walked the streets of town calling out, "Dara for sale, Dara for sale." People opened their doors with pitchers in their hands. The milkman filled their pitchers from his own larger vessel. This requires a little bit of imagination, it's much larger, and happily accepted their payment. He was a good man who shared his profits with his elderly mother, even as he cared for his own family. By noon, the milkman was always ready for a rest. One day, he set the jug down on a big rock and found a nearby rock for himself. He savored the momo dumplings that his wife had packed for his lunch. He could hear the wind whistling and goats bleating. A loud voice called, "Tashi Dele," or hello. It was a shepherd. Let's see if we can learn that. Tashi Dele. What did it say? Tashi Dele. The milkman replied with an equally loud, "Tashi Dele." The sudden sound of his voice startled one of the goats. The goat jumped up and bumped into the jug. Crash! The jug fell off its rock and broke. "My jug," groaned the milkman. "Your goat broke my jug. You must pay for it." The shepherd had no money to spare. Just like the milkman, he shared everything with his elderly mother, even as he looked after his family. He replied, "You shouldn't have perched it like that on the rock. It's your own fault." The two men argued back and forth all afternoon. They could not agree on who should take the blame and pay to replace the jug. Finally, they decided to take the case to court. Together, they walked up the path to the village square that was just outside the temple, where a monk could always be found. Monks were the ones who dispensed justice in those days and considered cases such as this one. The men bowed before the monk and asked to tell their story. The monk listened carefully, rubbing his chin, said, "The milkman could have been more careful with his jug, and yet it is not his fault that it broke. Without it, he cannot earn what he needs to care for his family or his elderly mother. It was the goat, not the shepherd, who broke the jug. If the shepherd were to pay for it, he would have to sell his goats, and then he would not be able to earn what he needs to care for his family or his elderly mother." He continued, "If neither of the men are to blame, then it must be the fault of the goat and the rock. They are the ones who must be tried." The goat came willingly, but it took 20 men to carry the rock into the village square. By then, the entire village had heard about the disagreement, and many had come to watch the proceedings. At first, the square resounded with the sound of people greeting one another. "Tashi Dele, Tashi Dele, Tashi Dele." As they talked together, more and more people began to snicker and scorn the proceedings. Some shouted, "This is ridiculous!" Finally, the monk looked up to acknowledge the crowd that had gathered. He scolded, "Do you really think I am going to apply the law to a rock and a goat? Do you take me for a fool? Or are you here to mock our laws?" When he could see that his words had sunk in, the monk began to smile. "Each and every one of you who is laughing is guilty of improper thought. The fine is 1 gyatso, 1 copper coin." The monk held out his hands. For a moment, people stared in disbelief. Slowly, one, then another, reached into their pockets and their purses to extract the small coin. A single gyatso meant little to them. Each of them placed their coin in the monk's open hands. Soon he had a large collection of coins. The monk turned to the grief-stricken milkman. "This should be plenty for you to buy a new jug." Most of the crowd began to smile. And the next day, the milkman could be heard calling, "Dara for sale, Dara for sale." Customers everywhere called out in greeting, "Tashi Dele."
This is the time in our service when we gather the offering of cash, but also offering of food, which if we have only have one child, she may need some help in collecting the food. Oh, there's 3. I wasn't looking around. Okay. So the children will collect the food. And 25% of the plate offering goes to one of our local benevolences. And this month it is the Clemson Child Development Center, which is appropriate because our emphasis in social justice this month is on education. People in this congregation worked very hard to establish the Child Development Center in 1968 to prepare children for public schools that were desegregated. And it has been a blessing to the community ever since.
Thank you for your generosity. So this week, y'all are compensating for last week. This is a time during our service each week in which we share our joys and concerns. It is a time of sacred sharing in our community so that we know that we are not alone. I've asked Holley to place a stone into this vessel representing our shared community for each of our joys and concerns this morning. And last week we didn't have any turned in, and this week I'm not sure we didn't reach 17, but y'all tried really hard to make sure we had some this week. So I'm joyful for that. I offered this joy from Carol Ward that she sold her house in Pendleton, and she will be rich now. Joy from Cody that she will be selling Girl Scout cookies. Please see her if you want to order from the social room. Got at least one taker. And Carl Dieter expresses a joy of seeing Reverend Holley's exuberance as the last obstacle was removed from closing on their house, which, as an extension of that, I appreciate Carl for helping make a phone call to confirm that I am still employed here. Yes. And it says, all of us, as the name of who this is from, but a joy, with a thank you to Marty Bear for all your care of the building. Most recently, your preparations for this weekend's hard freeze. And he was here early this morning to turn the water back on for us. So he had it cleared out so we didn't have any freezing pipes. So I have a joy from Cindy Lee that she completed her last chemo treatment on January 8th. I appreciate all of the love and support I've had from you all. Yes. 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 Have a concern from Kathy that Gordon's brother David and his wife live in Reseda, a part of Los Angeles, not yet affected by the fire or smoke. They are preparing to foster someone's pet. We made our contribution to LA's Habitat for Humanity. Yes. And for all of those that have lost homes, all of those that are dealing with respiratory distress or fear in the midst of the fires. Have a concern from Mike Cole. The Pickens County Library Board will meet at 6 p.m. this Thursday at the Easley Library. The continued discussion regarding objectable books will no doubt occur. Yes. And we place one final stone for all of those joys and concerns that are held close and tender upon our hearts for those that are not with us this morning. Now, if you will join in singing our children to the religious education classes with Karen Hiebel and Heather Bell today with Go Now in Peace. In light of the fires in the LA area, I opted to choose a different prayer this morning than the one that is listed in the order of service. This was written several years ago by colleague Caitlin Cotter-Collyberg as the fires loom. Spirit of life and love, we gather today recognizing the smoky skies, aching with the onslaught of the daily news, our spirits weary and sore, our nerves jangling with every loss of power, every alert on our phones. Our thoughts this morning are with the firefighters and all of those bodies that continue to be on the line. Our hearts with every person who has lost a home or a place of work or a special piece of wilderness. Our minds are with the unfolding effects of climate change and the path ahead of us. As sirens sound in the great distance, we pause here to center ourselves once again, to transform our tension into tranquil readiness, our fear into loving purpose. May we find in this time a moment of calm amidst the winds that churn ashes. May we find in this sanctuary a space to be and to breathe together. May we find this community reminds us that we are enough and we are not alone. I invite you to breathe in the quiet with me for a moment, to take the serenity of this being together and breathe out more love into this room and into the world. Come, let us sit in a moment of silence, followed by musical meditation, and settle into this peace of time together. So this week, our service is to recognize our board members, both the outgoing and incoming board members, as well as our returning board members. So this is a giving of thanks for our outgoing board members. If you are willing to, Kathy and Michael, I invite you to stand. If you don't want to come forward, you don't have to, but if you would at least stand for a moment so we can see who you are and where you are. Kathy Crane is leaving the board as past president after serving as both president and president-elect before that. And Michael Elder was our chief financial officer, and he is stepping off of the board as well. I've asked Holley to help me with reading this litany, but there's a part where you respond. So we're going to need your help from the congregation. Is for this we thank you. And that is written in your order of service next to this. So if you need a reminder of what the words are. So Holley's going to read a section, and then I will cue you to respond alongside me with for this we thank you.
Today we mark the turning of a season. And right now, in this moment, we mark it with celebration of outgoing leaders. There is a cycle to life. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. This is true of life, it is true of communities, and yes, it is true even of leadership positions. And so let us honor this cycle of leadership transition with a shared litany. Members of the congregation, your line is, for this we thank you. You, dear leaders, no, that's okay.
We're good.
Rehearsal is good.
That's good. Yes.
You, dear leaders, you have served us well, and
For this we thank you.
several of you are leaving leadership positions that you held through the last years of ministerial transitions and during a pandemic. You have held steady for so long. Now you are handing over the reins that you have so carefully held and tended.
And for this we thank you.
Several of you are at the end of your board terms. You have been thoughtful leaders and stewards of this congregation.
And for this we thank you.
You have brought a spirit of dedication, your love, and a deep, abiding faith in the growing, evolving spiritual community that is this church.
Yes, we thank you.
By your service, you have helped nurture and meet our needs for personal spiritual growth, inspirational worship, and a mutually caring community. You have helped us to devote ourselves to religious learning for all ages, embrace human diversity by welcoming individuals and families of all kinds, and join with the larger community to promote love, justice, and service to society.
And for this we thank you.
The beginning of a new role, perhaps the beginning of a time when you can simply be here in worship and community, beginning a time of renewal. We trust that you will find the right ways to nurture your spirit and serve this community.
And for this, we thank you. And I would invite you all to give a round of applause for our outgoing board members. And in the spirit of continued thanks, we have a piece of music, and the words will be on the screen, not because you need to sing them, although if you feel called to, you are welcome to, but the music will play from Beautiful Chorus.
Thank you for your blessing. Thank you for your blessings. Your guidance is wise indeed. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your blessings. Your lessons live on in me. Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you. 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 Ooh, thank you. Thank you for your blessing. Thank you for your blessing. Your guidance is wise indeed. Thank you for your blessing. Thank you for your blessing. Your lessons live on in me. Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you. 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 Ooh, thank you.
Each week, when we light this chalice, this representation and symbol of community, as we gather together, we say an affirmation. We gather together. We don't just gather together for the heck of it. We don't just gather together to fill the space. We gather together in the spirit of love. Not just in the spirit of love, but with justice. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to care for one another. We say these words each week because they have an importance to us here as a community. It's not just a social gathering. It is a place where we come to hold our shared values, to be in community and care for one another. And while it's not as familiar a song, we've done it a couple of times now, but the song we sang at the beginning of service has these same words, that we gather together. But instead of in the spirit of love, it continues to say to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to true affirmation, to joy and tribulation, bound to human care and hope. Then we are free. We gather together not merely as a statement of physical proximity. We need one another. We gather together to create a community of caring, a community of compassion. We share our joys and concerns, our sorrows, our celebrations. Not just with these joys and concerns each week, but when we gather together in moments of caring, when we prepare a meal for someone, when we take them to doctor's appointments or check in on them after surgeries or treatments for their health in other ways. And we also join together on a journey towards spiritual wholeness, towards spiritual growth, supporting one another in that. A community grounded in our shared values with love, but not just any love, a liberating love filled with compassion. We are guided in the pursuit of justice, as our affirmation says, to work towards a world filled with equity, to transform the world. We work with recognition of the pluralism of this faith, with the many different backgrounds, many different beliefs that come together. Our interdependence, recognizing that we are connected to something larger than ourselves, even if it's each other. Whether we call it God or the universe, or Allah, Buddha, Ganesh, any of many religious traditions can be represented as part of our spiritual pluralism and growth. But then the generosity, not just financial generosity, but also the generosity of spirit, the giving of time and talent and treasure. You might have noticed the title that I've used at the beginning of this, talking about We Gather Together, was also the title of the stewardship campaign this year. And many of you put leaves on the wall in the social hall representing what matters to you, what is important about this community, why we keep coming back. There has to be a reason that we keep coming back. We keep coming back. We keep giving because the ministries of this church, not just a sermon on Sunday morning, but the ministries, plural, all of the ways in which this congregation serves one another and serves the larger community, are part of that generosity of spirit. It is not merely a building, a place where we gather. It is connection, it is covenants that make Unitarian Universalism what it is. It creates and nurtures and sustains the faith and makes the ministries of this fellowship possible. We have a shared ministry. We have a shared ministry committee that helps nurture the shared ministries of this congregation, and they're just getting back started after being the transition team, but we're through some of that transition. So we'll be focusing on those shared ministries, whether it is religious education or social action or offering hospitality or any other numbers of ways in which you serve, whether it's as committee chairs or as board members, past and present. Now, the fellowship could be also called a church or a congregation or a community, depending on where you are attending. But for this purpose, I'm going to call it a church. Did any of you in growing up have the experience of seeing this? This is the church. This is the steeple. Open the doors and see all the people. Okay, a few of you. So Another one that you may or may not be familiar with, if you've ever had to wonder about how to spell the word church, you have CH and CH. What's missing in the middle? Yes, you are. So it can be helpful in remembering how to spell it, but it also illustrates the importance of what is at the center of a faith community. Whether it is this faith community or any other denomination, there's a common purpose of coming together and being part of community. Now, who here has experienced a greater need for community as you have moved into adulthood, maybe graduating college or employment in a different field or retirement, having children and then empty nesters, and all of these different phases of life, things change for us. And perhaps you felt a greater need for community as you have changed in your phases of life. And have any of you come here because you wanted community? Okay, I see quite a few hands. I imagine some of our folks at home and in the social room probably feel similarly. And so it is with this greater understanding of community that we come together week after week, not just in these physical spaces, but with our covenant groups, with our social action work that happens, feeding folks with our daily rest, taking up food collections each week. It is a representation of what this community stands for, both in physical and intangible ways. This interdependence that's represented by these connections is something that drew me into Unitarian Universalism. At first, I was seeking community, and then I got there and I read the seventh principle, which is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. I didn't know that word when I was younger, but I had this moment when I was maybe 7 or 8 of this feeling of connectedness to something larger than myself that wasn't the God or Jesus or Holy Spirit, the Trinity that I was taught in the United Methodist tradition. Now, do any of you remember those like tri-folding beach chairs that kind of ratcheted into position? There was one of those that was kid size. It was yellow and white. And why that particular thing stands out in my mind, I don't know. But the following moments of hearing my dad and my uncle talking behind me, I don't know what they were talking about, but I was struck by a moment of awe as I was sitting in the yard in my beach chair, looking out over the water of Bogue Sound, the inland coastal waterway, across from Emerald Isle. As dusk was falling, the lights began to turn on in the homes over on the island. And as dusk was falling, the insects began to chirp and make noises all around. The stars began to be visible in the night sky. I don't know why this moment stands out, but it is deeply part of my spirituality and my understanding of connection. And then when I read that word interdependent or interdependence, I was like, oh, that's what that was. That was a moment of connection to something larger than myself. It was a connection to nature, but it's also a connection to place and family, all tied up together. And so as I got older, I drifted away from the United Methodist Church of my youth and finally found my way to Unitarian Universalism. And I felt that connection. I remember telling someone it felt like coming home. And as I got more comfortable, I got talked into doing more things. Has anybody ever found that happening? Maybe. Well, I got talked into being the chair of the hospitality committee, and that felt like it really fit because I wanted to be somebody that welcomed people in and made them feel as welcome and included as I had been when I first arrived. And so, while I don't want anybody to be asked to do anything too quickly, because I don't want to run somebody off, I do think it's important to get involved in some way, whether it is attending a covenant group or a Socratic cafe gathering or bringing something for food, for hospitality, doing just a little bit to help set up or clean up, to come for the grounds day and help clean up. There is a beauty in the small things and in the big things that we do as community. It's the ways in which we get to know one another, but also commit to those different ministries that I mentioned. All of these different things that we do as part of community are part of the ministries of this congregation. And so there's a piece of it that you all participate in. Have y'all heard the words congregational polity or have an idea of what they mean? Okay, so as Unitarian Universalist, we believe in using congregational polity. Rather than having the denomination set forth everything that we are supposed to do, or having a particular doctrine or creed that we have to agree to, instead we have a place in which our members of the congregation are a voting body for the things that matter to this congregation, but also in a larger picture as representatives from this congregation vote on denominational matters. And I mention all of this because one of the things that y'all vote on, for anybody that was here for the congregational meeting in December, you vote on the budget, but you also vote on your slate of board members. And so each year you get a chance to say that you affirm the board members. Now, usually there's not any competition. Instead, we often have to be, please do this. And so we are grateful that we have a full board this year. And so as part of this service today, I want to honor that commitment because this is not taken lightly. Our members of the board are recognized by you as the congregation, and they are representatives. That means they have what's called a fiduciary responsibility. They have some financial responsibilities, making sure things are taken care of, making sure that the day-to-day business of the fellowship continues to happen. It means attending board meetings, setting policies, which, by the way, there's a brand new update to the policy manual that the board this past year has helped complete, and you can find it on the website if you're interested in reading the 117 pages, although a lot of those are table of contents pages, so just so you know, it's easier to find things. But it is this and so much more that our board does throughout the year. And so I would like to invite our board members to come forward, our current board members and those that are newly elected. So Larry Fredendall has accepted the position of Chief Financial Officer, or CFO. And Meg Williamson has accepted the position of Secretary. And then we have returning board members, Chen Fu Chen as President-elect, Carl Dieter moving from position of President-elect to President, and now into the position of past President. Barbara Stroop as our Program Council Chair. And Leslie Visage, who has moved from President-elect into the President position for this year. In a free religious community, to serve is the highest expression of our commitment to love. To be asked to lead is the highest honor. And so I would like to invite the members of the board that I just listed off to come forward, if you would please. And so this part is participatory. I need a response from you in the congregation and from our board as we offer this blessing. As members of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson, you have chosen this group of folks as your board for this coming year. The relationship between the congregation and board is one of deep respect and mutual regard. You, the members of UUFC, have asked them to take on this holy work of discerning and guidance. They need your support. So I know y'all are making faces at the board, but they need your support, okay? To share ideas and concerns in love and to offer them trust to fulfill their office faithfully. To work of the church is the work of the people, not just these people, but all of the people, okay? It requires sometimes for these folks poring over budget sheets, hours spent in meetings, hashing out details. It is manifest in shared laughter and sometimes frustration from time to time, but always sacred for its pursuit of beloved community. Service is an act of faith. Service done faithfully in love is the work of justice and building community. This is what you have asked of this group of folks, that they serve you faithfully and well. So I ask you, the members of UUFC, will you offer love and trust to your board, responding when they seek your input, showing up when they tell you that work needs to be done and shared, and listening carefully when they speak of the life of the fellowship? If so, please respond, "We will." All right. And to the members of the board, will you be diligent and faithful in your work, bringing your best selves and practicing self-care and open-heartedness, tending the love, the details of the work, and always keeping the goal of the beloved community in front of you as you serve? If so, please respond, "We will." We will. And in the spirit of blessing, I offer these words. May the spirit of love guide you in the coming year. May the spirit of joy infuse the work in which you engage. And may your service bless this fellowship and the wider world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you. And if we can give these folks a round of applause. Right. So now, in another spirit of gratitude, a song that we've tried a few times and hopefully is becoming more familiar, of number 1010 in the teal hymnal, We Give Thanks. And the words will be on the screen. You're invited to stand in body, mind, or spirit wherever you are to join in singing. And I forgot that we have different words that were on the slides. I meant to correct that after the last time, but you know, me and slides don't have the best of track record when it comes to updating them, but I am very glad that Barbara helps create them, so any new slides usually aren't messed up. But I want to offer again our gratitude, not just for our board members, but for all of you that choose to be part of this community, that you may carry the spirit of generosity in all of the ways that it is manifest with your care for one another and the care and love that you carry out into the wider world when you leave this place. May you go in peace and return in love.